That's good. Hey, I'm Bundy.
And I'm Luke.
And today you're listening to episode 2 of the Noise Levels podcast. And today we have a special guest.
Desh, how you going, guys?
Hey, good.
Hey.
And for reference, Colden's pointing to Desh as he says that because it's such a visual medium.
Hey, there could be an audio podcast happening in the future.
Who are we focusing on today?
Today we're going to be talking about spilt milk.
Excellent. So I'm just going to tell a little story before we do launch into a song from Spilt Milk. So if we can cast our minds back to 1996, I was 15 years old and I got a drum kit for my birthday. My mates who are here, Bundy and Desh, had a band that they'd started and it was called Ontology because Bundy had randomly just picked that out of a dictionary.
Yep.
That name didn't stick. We eventually became the Shenanigans, which is a longer story which we won't tell now. But part of that process was I got a drum kit for my birthday because I wanted to be a part of the band. And I wasn't really that much into music at that point, but I wanted to play in a band with my friends, and everybody needs a drummer. Most people want to play guitar, so you need to get someone who's willing to sit on the kit. And the music of the time at our high school was Nirvana, Metallica, Pearl Jam, Guns N' Roses, that sort of thing, and mostly American sort of bands. And this is like the mid-90s. And then one day I was at my new school, which was St. Mary's Senior High, and some other students there had put together a skate punk band called Linoleum, which was fronted by a guy named Wade Billett, who later went on to be in a band called Frowing Cactus, who turned into Porn Trooper. Anyway, they performed in the playground at lunchtime, and they jumped on and they played a cover of a Spilt Milk song called The Simpsons, and I thought it was the greatest thing ever. Like, they just got up, and it just had so much attitude, it was catchy, and it looked like something that, reasonably some teenagers could play. And the lyrics were hilarious, and it was just fast and energetic, and it was basically my introduction to punk music. And then I talked to them afterwards and said, "Oh, what was that song?" And they said, "Oh, that's a song by a band called Spilt Milk. They're like local boys from Western Sydney." And I was amazed that like a local band had come up with this song. And then, I went out and I tracked down their tape and I listened to it over and over again. And it basically introduced me to punk and it put me on that road to playing punk music and steered me a little bit away from that American sort of stuff. So that's
interesting.
That's why, and the Spilt Milk guys asked me when we were recording all the interviews for this podcast, and they said, why Spilt Milk? Why do you want to do a podcast about this band from 30 years ago? And I was like, that's why, because that's something that I've always been really interested in, because it did start me off listening to punk, and it meant a lot to me, that song, even though like it is such a fast and goofy and like, funny song. It just struck a chord with me, if you can bear that pun. But and then the other thing too about that song is like, I listened to it on tape and like I was teaching myself guitar and I picked up the guitar and it's the first song where I learned how to play along to what was on the tape and figured out the chords myself. And that's how I was like, man, I could do this. Like, maybe I could do some punk songs too. Yeah. And that's where that all sort of comes from. Anyway, that's a bit of backstory for this. So we're going to jump into a song now, and that song is The Simpsons.
Order. O.J. Simpson, based on the evidence produced in this court today, the jury has found you... The Simpsons! that man. You know, do you reckon he done it on Luke and 2 bucks if he did? Maybe it was his song, but there again, I'm assuming some motherfucking cartoon on some TV show. I don't know, where's Bart or fucking Sanders, that little helper or something? Who cares? Who gives a fuck about that man? Who gives a fuck about? Who gives a fuck about that man? Who gives a fuck about O.J. Simpson? 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 Fuck it, I'm done here.
Yeah, so that's actually the first time I've actually ever heard that recording. So there you go. I probably heard it back in the day, but you know the old mind's getting a bit old and brain damaged. So
Yeah. So I guess the fortuitousness of us having Desh here, because the three of us became the Shenanigans, which was just a little Penrith punk band. But that punkness sort of was a sort of subconscious sort of flow on from us being influenced by our various bands, and for me that was Spilt Milk. But
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but what bands did you sort of listen to at that time?
well, for me in the local area it was like Hassel Brigade was my favourite, which I'm sure everybody knows. It's, I remember these guys. I remember seeing them at heaps of shows and stuff like that. And I used to, I always liked them. Yeah, and I remember the one that stands out is the show out at Landilo on the back of the truck in the paddock.
Yeah.
That was a crazy night.
That was.
Do you remember that night, Desh?
Yeah,
so-
I remember that night.
So Spilt Milk played at that party,
Yeah.
and Speckled Foam, and I'm not sure who else, but that's about all I can recall. And I just remember there was a whole bunch of people in that paddock, and probably the less said about it, the better.
What happened in the paddock stays in the paddock.
I just remember trying to walk home, and it was like a 5 kilometre walk, and I was not in a state to walk 5 kilometres. And I was lucky that some guy pulled over and picked me up, and halfway through the car trip I realised I knew who this guy was. So we're going to jump into a clip now. So just to sort of give you an overview of what this show is, we're looking at Spilt Milk's history. This is the story of Spilt Milk. We've got interviews with 5 of the 9 members in total that Spilt Milk collected over the years. We have interviews with Matty, who is the only consistent member across the entire history of Spilt Milk. So Matty played guitar and did the vocals in the band. So he sang for the band. And then we also have an interview with Steve Kitney, who is the original drummer from the band. We have an interview with Marty Durkan, who is the longest running bass player in the band. So for the majority of the band's time, he was the bass player. We have an interview as well with Damien Elliott, who was the longest running drummer in the band. And then we also have an interview with Checky, or Adam Check, who jumped in as a second guitarist towards the end of the band. So we'll jump in and out of a few interviews with these guys as they sort of share their memories of the band, and we'll listen to a few more songs. But here's Matty talking about how the band started. And one thing to sort of realise about this clip before we listen to it is Matty's talking about leaving his previous band, Hate Trip.
Pretty well agreed that I should leave Hate Trip because I was a common theme, drinking too much. Anyway, and I was just a loud in Mount Druitt at the time, so yeah, I was enjoying my being 17. And anyway, I decided I wanted to start a band for myself, and I had a mate, Warwick, who lived down the road, and I spoke to him, and I just started writing songs at home by myself. And I was kind of looking at I really liked UMI at the time, and I was kind of looking at something kind of like that. And I wrote these 2 or 3 songs, and then my mate Daniel Patterson, who will be involved a little bit, he said, we're going to go and meet up with some chicks in town, and they're going to a show, some band called Frenzalrom. And I'm like, never heard of them, don't know what you're on about, and I was a metalhead at this stage, even though I loved UMI, so I'm kind of contradicting myself there. So anyway, we went in to meet up with these girls, and Friends Were On played, and that just changed everything. I was no longer just this metalhead confused kid. I just went home, and those two songs become fast. I sped them right up, and I thought, this is what I want to do. So that's how the idea of it, and I spoke to Wok, and Wok was on board, and I sold Paddo my bass, Daniel Patterson, and he jumped on board. Paddo had been around for a while. He was a mate of mine when I was living in the Mount Druitt area. He's from Mount Druitt himself, and we always got on really well, and he jumped on bass. He's a very talented kid. Really, honestly, he's quite wasted. Because I think he could have done really well in the music scene, but it just wasn't for him, which is fair enough. And we just started writing these songs, and we were just in the room, and we wrote The Simpsons. Well, Wok pretty much wrote The Simpsons. I came up with the lyrical idea. And then we just kept moving. That's when we started, and that lineup didn't last very long. It was only about 6 months. But I don't know, I just thought, I just thought it was a pretty cool band, and we were having fun, and we won a band comp and got a demo out quicker than most people did, it was just pure luck.
Okay, and now here we have a clip of Steve on how he joined the band.
Yeah, so Steve is the first drummer, and then that'll be followed by, we just got 2 other clips, one of Matty talking about how he came up with the name of Spilt Milk, and then Steve talking a bit about the first show they played.
I'd bought a cheap $200 drum kit off a mate about 6 months before, and Daniel rang me up and was like, "Oh, you want to come and join a band?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure," as you do when you're young. But we kind of got together, and I think our personalities sort of matched as much as our kind of inexperience. Apart from Matt was always very mature, like as far as his business savvy went. Like he kind of he was the one that entered us into band comp. They got us recording just in time, sort of thing. So he was always very forward thinking in that aspect. Whereas like I said, I bought a drum kit 6 months before. It was like, yeah, I can play.
How old were you?
About 18.
Yeah,
just like fresh out of high school, kind of thing. So yeah.
All I remember is that we went to register. You remember we used to register the band name. You'd take your $30 or $100. You'd take it down to the place in Parramatta, and you'd register the band name, so then you owned it, which it probably means absolutely nothing. But we did do that, and I went down, and I wanted to call it something, but there was a dentistry company that had already had it, and so I started rattling these names off that were just kind of similar, and Spilt City nearly happened, and then Spilt Milk, and I went, well, that's kind of got 2 things to it, and it sounds kind of nice, so and then some festival stole it off me 30 years later. That's really embarrassing because the music's shit. I
remember we played Samantha's. We opened for Nitocris.
Wow.
I think Matt was roadieing for Nitocris at that point in time, and he managed to get us in playing with them.
Yeah, so we can see the band sort of coming together in their first milestones, like bringing the members in, coming up with the name and the style of the band, and then their first show with Nitocris, which is a great first show to play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and obviously Matty had that connection there, being their roadie. But Matty had been played in a few bands by that point anyway. But you wanted to make a comment, Bundy, about something.
Just when we were here talking to Matt, how he mentioned that he was a massive UMI fan. I gotta say, I was completely shocked. You wouldn't pick it in a million years, and to me, that's one of the good things about this podcast is you actually get a behind the scenes look of the history of these people.
Yeah, and their influences.
Absolutely, because you wouldn't pick it in a million years.
It's cool seeing the perfect storm of metal, punk, UMI, these things that are all come together. Form a
great,
unique sound.
Yeah, and if you listen to that early UMI sound, it does have a bit of an edge to it. is it Berlin Chair?
Yeah.
What a fucking great song, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, so the next big thing that happens for Spilt Milk after they've come together and played this great first show, which we actually have footage of, and like, you know, you'll see a bit of that footage if you're watching this on YouTube. They play a band comp, which is like a turning point for them because it leads into them being able to record, which is not an easy thing for a band to do in the 90s.
Not at all.
Recording was like expensive. You had to have equipment. You had to have someone who could record you, and it was difficult trying to get all that stuff together as teenagers playing in a punk band, you know. So they did manage to record a demo quite early in the band's lifespan, and this band comp helps explain how that happened. So we'll hear from Steve and then Matty talking about this.
It was the Hawkesbury Youth Week band comp, but the thing was, you needed one band member to have lived in the area, and none of us did. But we had one of our friends, Mandy's mum, I believe, lived in the area, so we used her address. Once again, as you do when you're young.
Yeah.
Her address, and we had no idea we would win, which was to the point where it was an alcohol-free event, and we got off stage and went to the bottle shop, you know. And then next thing we know, we're told, "Oh, you got to get back on stage. You just won." What? So, I remember somebody borrowed my crappy drum kit, and I was thinking, "You poor sod."
Well, yeah, the Windsor Band Comp. It was the first year anniversary of Kurt Cobain's death. Things you remember.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, we only had 3 songs, and the sets were 10 minutes each. And I remember being really hungover. I was nearly throwing up on the grass. And I got up there, and we did our thing, and I think we won it because I think we were the only like original band, and the 3 judges were young and hip who could tell they were like Frenzal and stuff like that. So I think that was it. And we beat some pretty good bands, which probably should have won it, like Heifer. You know, Heifer should have probably won it. They were a brilliant band back in the day. Well, I was like looking at them going, wow, man, these guys are professional. And then there we are jumping up there because we were a 4-piece at this time, sorry. So yeah, and we won that, and then we got really drunk again and went to a Nitocris show that I was meant to be working at, but we just went up at Narrabeen Sands and got smashed, and was like, yeah, we won a band comp. That was cool. But yeah, and we did that, and then we recorded the demo with the money. So the prize was $500, I think, and Zen had, you know, the old drum media. They had the Zen ads in the back of the drum media, and it was a $500 deal where you got 100 cassettes printed with the recording, I think, and posters. So, I think because we won $500, I think it was $300 for the deal, and because we had an extra $200, I think we got extra posters and stuff made. So yeah, we did that, and the day that we got that, Nitocris supported Suicide Tendencies at Selena's, and I had all the stickers and all that stuff, and I was throwing them out at the crowd of Suicidal Tendencies. So it was cool.
So there you go. So they won that money, and they were able to go and record at Zen Studios, which everyone in the day knew as the cool place to go. And then they have their first demo, which is Just in Time. So Just in Time is a cassette tape which had 3 songs on it, and that's the one that we spoke about at the beginning, which has The Simpsons as the title track, and 2 other songs, Sandwich and Kissing Cousins with, in the brackets, incest. It's a great demo. All 3 of those songs are great. And so we'll just hear now Steve talking a little bit about that song, The Simpsons, and the context of how it was written just ahead of the demo, and then Matty talking about the demo, and Steve also talking a bit more about the demo too.
I remember we wrote The Simpsons, I think, was written maybe a few days to a week before we actually even recorded it at Zen.
Right.
And it was, I can't remember who, but 2 of the other guys were having a bit of a glue at that point in time. And it was one of those moments where we wrote that song, we just literally started playing it, and we all looked at each other, and it sort of solidified the band a bit. It was kind of weird. It was like it smoothed over any crap that was going on at that point in time, because, I don't know, it's had a bit of a vibe to it.
That was the package. It was 5 hours. See what you can do in 5 hours with Jeff Lee. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as someone else mentioned it too, he'd sip on cups of tea the whole time, and then he would celebrate with a beer when we finished. Yeah, and I saw him one time not long ago, and I was like, "Wow, you're real." Because he was like, he's kind of a legend. You know what I mean? Like everyone knows Jeff Lee.
What was my first experience in a recording situation, which was very nerve wracking because, like I said, I'd even been playing drums for a short period of time, and I realised that a couple of weeks before we were going to go in that I couldn't do drum rolls to save my life. But I spent that couple of weeks like basically practicing rolls, which was kind of weird because I still think that on that recording, out of anything of the drumming, which is pretty crappy, the drum rolls are actually all right. It's one thing I sort of practiced.
Yeah.
But on Just in Time, actually, there's a judge in one of the songs, which is actually Marty, who ended up playing bass later on in Spilt Milk, but he happened to be there with us, like, as you do when your mates are recording, you'll show up and have a bit of a party.
So Just in Time, first demo's out, and then shortly after that, the band undergoes some lineup shuffles. And I'm a history teacher, and one of the great things about this project is that it lets me sort of put some of those things that I teach in the classroom into effect when I'm doing research. And I'm not researching something that's hundreds of years old, it's only 30 years old. But you'd be surprised what you can't find after 30 years. And so these next three clips, we have a clip from Marty now. So Marty is the main bass player from the time of Spilt Milk. Spilt Milk played for about 5 years. And so Marty's in there for at least 4 of those years. And so we're going to hear from Marty about how he joined the band. And as Steve said in that clip, Marty's actually the judge at the start of the Simpsons track where he's saying, order, order. That's Marty who was just hanging out with his mates at the time. So he becomes their bass player. Then we're going to hear from Steve talking about how he left the band. Mm-hmm. And then Matty will talk about some of the other lineup change, like Warwick, a.k.a. Wok, and Daniel Patterson, a.k.a. Pato, how they both left the band. And there was another guy who joined the band briefly at this time, Daniel Wright, who was from a band called CFBP, who I won't say what those initials stand for. I did do a bit of research, and I eventually found out what those initials stand for. And the story goes that the band sometimes told people the initials don't stand for anything, because basically when you find out what those initials stand for, you're just like, well, it's not really it's not really a name that you want to be telling people all the time. But anyway, from a history standpoint, getting these 3 different people talking about the lineup shuffles, they sort of overlap each other, and it's hard to establish a clear timeline of who was there when. But long story short, a series of metaphorical musical chairs happened, and the dust settles, and we end up with Spilt Milk as a 3-piece at the end.
Oh, I'm pretty sure in 1,000 years' time, historians will be able to settle it.
Yeah, I hope someone...
Over vigorous debate.
I hope someone is listening to this in 1,000 years' time. And I hope they have a really hard time trying to figure out what all of the references are to. Anyway, here's Marty.
I think they were together for... Honestly, it's hard to remember, but it was about, might have been 6 months or something, and then I joined. I needed a bass player, and I was there at the right time. So, yeah, it worked out pretty well. I joined in 95, and we finished, I think, 99.
Yeah.
So about 4 years or so, roughly. Yeah.
I remember, I think the other 2 guys left before me, because I do recall once being at Matty's house with Marty, good mate. Had a jam with him and Matty, and I think I left not long after that. Just for no reason really. I was just kind of wanted to do something else, as you do when you're young and you're still sort of like learning stuff and trying to find your feet, trying to fit in the world. But good memories, good times. I have a lot of respect and love for the guys still. Like, haven't seen them for probably about 30 years. Well, actually, I saw Walk a few years ago, but haven't seen Matty for a long time. But we had a chat once, like a few years back on Facebook Messenger and stuff. And still a lot of respect for the guys. So, and then I used to go see them after they were the 3-piece with Marty and Damien. And Damien, I remember seeing him at Hate Trip and thinking, fire out, what a drummer.
Yeah.
And when he started playing, I was thinking, I had no place in that band.
Oh.
That guy's just got it down pat. He's just so solid. He's playing is brilliant. So left the band but became a fan, so to speak. So
I think Wok and Steve went off to do something for themselves. I don't know. They're kind of like in their own little. I think they're more gothic-y type stuff, and they went and did what they wanted to do, which is I don't know what happened there. Pato just was Pato. You just would go to pick him up and he wouldn't be there. So that's when Pato actually was kind of just not. We just stopped picking him up. Yeah. And sorry, Pato, but he's all good. We still talk when we see each other. And he's doing really well, I think. So yeah, he kind of disappeared, and then we got Dan in from CFBP, and I don't know if that does mean anything, but Dan told me that it means nothing. They just wanted something that sounded cool. So he did one show with us, left his base at my place, and then I never saw him again. And so it was like, okay, and then that's when Wok and Steve went missing. So I'd already lined up Marty, because me and Marty played in a band together called Lestat before this happened. And if you want another history on me, or you want one in all the bands, my first band was Maestro, which was at high school. So Marty was joining us, and we were like, yeah, it was joining me, and I thought I may have not had a band at that time, but we were going to continue on as Spilt Milk. And we had a mate called Lee who was working in a sanity store in Plumpton, but he played in a death metal band called Cenotaph. So I talked to him and he came over, and he was also playing in another band at the time called Barney. So he came over, and that's when It Would Suck to Be a Duck era, I'd call it. Because there's 3 eras to the 3 different recordings that we're pretty much working off at the moment. And that went on for a little while, and we did the It Would Suck to Be a Duck demo. If you want to ask me what I remember of recording that, it was the same deal as what we did for the first demo, and I got really drunk because I had cheap beers there, and I'm really lit when I sung that demo. I can remember when I can listen to it when I'm doing that, don't know. It's kind of like a bit of a slur at times. Like, don't know what I should do. So, I think I was slurring it. I think I did it a fair few times to get it right. But and I think Jeff Lee was getting the shits with me. Yeah. Fair enough.
Righto, so we're already up to them recording their second demo, which is in, I'm just looking at my timeline now. The second demo is around 1996, so the following year, after they've recorded their first demo. So the band's sort of floated around for just over a year now. And so Matty's spoken there about them entering into their second sort of lineup as a free piece with himself still on guitar and vocals. Marty's joined the band as bass player, and then Steve's left, and Steve's gone on to form a gothic band called Twilight of Effigy, and then a new drummer's come in, Lee Graham, who sits with the band for about 6 months, and he's on that second recording, which is called It Would Suck to Be a Duck. And Lee, I don't think any of the other clips sort of talk about him and his sort of place in the band, but we do have some photos of him playing in the band, and he now lives in America, which I just found out about 5 minutes before we started doing this podcast today. So
it's a lot of last minute research.
Yeah, there's always new facts coming to light. But we'll go into some clips now, talking about this sort of next era of the band. But this next clip, just to give a bit of context, is talking about Matty's tattoos, and the reason for this will become clear, because we do not have at this point in time, recording this, an image of the cover of It Would Suck to Be a Duck, and something that we've been trying to hunt down for the last 2 months. We just haven't been able to find an image of the cover of It Would Suck to Be a Duck, but there is an image somewhere, not on the cassette tape, and that will become clear in this clip now. So one of the hardest things that I've had to try and track down is the cover of It Would Suck to Be a Duck.
I've got it.
Someone said it's tattooed on you.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to say my wife Tammy, and I'll let you guys know too, I've been with my wife Tammy since 96. So she's been pretty much with me this whole time. So I got this duck tattoo. Me and one of our lovely old friends, Tamara.
Can we get a photo of the tattoo actually?
Yeah, man, go for it. But what I was going to say is that I got this done in the city, and then when I went to go and get my whole sleeve done about 10, 12 years ago, I was going to cover it up. And my wife said, "No, you're not." She goes, "That's you, Matty. You're always like." I guess for her too, it's probably when she met me, I was the guy from Spilt Milk.
Was that the same night that a bunch of people got the inside of their lips tattooed?
No. That was a different night. I was the night I got my leg done. Me and my mate Simon Warner, our mate Simon Warner, I should say. We
R.I.P.
Rest in peace, mate. We were drinking tall bottles of beer and we were just absolutely hammered. And we had this little red laser, like hatchback, and two of us were in the boot of it, driving all around the place, right? Because the car was full. Man, if we got pulled over, we would have been gone. And Simon goes, "I'm booked in to get a tattoo." So we went to this backyard place in Dean Park, and he gets this tattoo on his chest fixed up, which is this Grim Reaper thing on his chest, and I got one of my married bones, the things that we hang around our necks. I'm touching my greenstone right now, but because we're listening, I got it tattooed on my leg, and the tattooer showed us his awesome Harley Davidson tattoo on the inside of his lip, and we're like, "Man, that's fucking awesome, bro! Mad, dude, awesome! I'll do it for you guys for $50 each if you'd like." And we're like, "Yeah, man, we're in, all right." So I wake up the next morning and I'm like, "What is that pain in my leg?" And I looked down on my right leg and I had a safety pin shoved through the side of my calf muscle. And I was like, because at this time we were going around with safety pins shoved through our eyebrows and shit. We're loose. Anyway, and I was like, "Well, that hurts." And I went, "Oh, what's that on my left leg?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I remember that tattoo." And I was like, "Did I fall over last night or something?" Because I felt like I had a gravel rash inside my mouth. And yeah, I got my date of birth in there, which is now just a 0, I think, or something like that. But the funny thing of the story is that Simon got his as well, and he got "fuck you" written, right? With fuck and a U, okay, instead of you, right? So anyway, because we were pissed, with the tattooist was pissed by this time, because we're feeding him beer as well. He went with the U, he went too low. And when I was sitting there looking at Simon, I could actually see the bottom of the U on his lip. So you could actually see it when he had his mouth shut. Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, man." So for the next 2 weeks, all he did was just chewed at it. And he managed to get it out, the U. So then he just had fuck. So it kind of explains to you guys of the type of people we were at the time. We were partying hard. Yeah. That's all we did. We'd travel around that little red laser. Sandra was driving, Dave... and all that stuff. Like Damien's sitting here nodding away because he was around this time as well. But Damien was always a little bit more grounded than I was. He had a girlfriend and he was working in the city while I was just fucking off hook. I was my moment of pride is when I'd have 3 different types of goon bags in the fucking fridge, So, and we're trying to keep this band going, So we're doing shit like that.
Yeah, and here we're going to play a song from another one of their demos. It Sucked to Be a Duck. And this song's called Nah, Fuck It.
Alrighty, so we now have Damo in the band, and so we're now entering the time of the band's most stable lineup, which is Matty on guitar and singing still, Marty on bass, and Damo or Damien, Elliott on drums. And this is the three piece, which is for most of the history of the band from like 96 to like 98/99. They do add Checky as a guitarist at the end, but this is basically the lineup for that time, which is strange when you look at the discography of the band, because the two cassette tapes, which most people have, neither of them have Damo playing on them. But Damo was the drummer for most of the band's lifespan. So Just in Time has the original drummer, Steve Kitney, who we heard from, and then the second demo has Lee Graham. He was only in the band for 6 months, so it's just timing, really.
Me and Damo played in Hate Trip together. A lot of Metallica / you could probably say Helmet influenced, right?
Drop D tuning, kind of just heavy, groovy kind of stuff.
Yeah. But anyway, so we were in Hate Trip together, and I left because of stupidity, and then, and so me and Damien were always really good friends, right? So much so that Damien ended up being my best man at my wedding and stuff like that. So, and we still talk to this day.
Yeah. So how'd you come to be in the band?
So that went back to me and Matty being in Hate Trip together and being good mates and stuff like that. So he went off to start Spilt Milk, and I was still doing that band, and that band kind of fizzled out, I guess, the end of 95, beginning of 96. I think we played our last show at the Axolotl, actually. And so I was just hanging out, going to their shows and stuff like that. And then I guess sort of mid 96, Lee dropped out, the drummer, and I started filling in doesn't. Why was I filling in?
No, you're filling in because you didn't want to join the band because you were still doing Hate Trip.
All right, so we must have been still going at that point in time. I thought it ended.
Hate Trip slowly started to really disband because Shannon wanted to move on to
Shannon had
Tattooist.
kids and Tattooist and stuff.
Yeah, and then I just hassled the fuck out of you, man. Come on, man, just join the band. No. And your first official band night that you actually joined the band was at the Enfield Tavern.
I remember that gig. Yeah,
playing for. Can I tell the story? What happened?
Yeah,
that night?
Go for it.
We played for the legendary Wayne Campbell, the drummer of Mortal Sin, Grungeon, and many other metal bands. But not to forget too, man, if anyone's seen Wayne's been missing for about 2 years now. So if anyone knows anything, please contact. Just let anyone know, please, because a lot of people are missing him. Anyway, we're playing for Wayne Campbell, and Wayne Campbell's like a legend to me and Damien. Like, we grew up on his stuff, So he invites us back to his place for a few bamboo schooners. So we went back for a few bamboo schooners at Wayne's place, and Damien was never really...
bit of a lightweight.
Yeah, a bit of a lightweight. Never really took much part in said bamboo schooners, and he had one, and the poor bloke chucked the most biggest whitey in front of his hero. Oh, man. I remember the look on his face, and because we're on the back of Wayne Campbell's panel van driving back, I'm looking at him going... Oh, he's not going to survive. But yeah, that night, that was your first official night that you joined Spilt Milk. So.
Yeah. Do you remember that night?
I remember the gig, It was a lot of fun. Yeah. It was a good show.
It was better than the second one when we went back there, and Simon Warner, rest in peace, caused a fight with the singer in the other band.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, because he was up there, he was like, had that real falsetto metal type of voice. They're good, they're a good band. I liked them. But Simon didn't like him, and he let them know. And he was trying to drag the singer off the stage, trying to fight him. And then once again, I got to watch my drumming hero kick my mate out.
Yeah.
This is after we cut a cake on stage with a chainsaw, by the way.
I've been hearing that story before, actually.
Yeah, it was Marty's idea.
Yeah.
It was one of our mates' 21st birthdays, and we got a cake up there, sung happy birthday, and pulled a chainsaw out and cut it.
That's fucking awesome.
The mess wasn't. you think about it, man, cake everywhere.
But I was just going to mention, we heard a few stories about some of the crazy shows they did, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, and we'll hear a little bit from Marty in a moment about some of his favourite shows. But one show that we didn't manage to get down on tape for a variety of reasons, they played up at the Currajong Hotel with Crapulous Gigor, and the legendary Crackula Skigor.
Yeah.
A band
Legendary indeed.
formed, I think, in 1989, and they're still going now.
Are they really?
Yeah, they're still going.
Wow.
And so, anyone who's played shows in Western Sydney knows who Crackula Skigor are. But yeah, and Currajong is basically their home. And I think that pub is connected to the band too. I think one of them owns it. But anyway, Spilt Milk played a really wild show up there, involving like a lot of foam, I think, and nudity and things like that. But
wasn't it like jelly wrestling?
Yeah,
They had a jelly pit.
yeah, we didn't manage to get it down on tape, but that's okay. There's a lot. You can't fit 5 years into like a 90-minute podcast accurately. But the long story short is they did play a whole bunch of shows. And what you're going to hear now as we talk through the rest of the band's history, the 3-year period of Matty, Damo and Marty doesn't have as much events in it because we're pulling together what we know. But we'll talk a bit about that in a moment. But anyway, here is Marty talking about some of his favourite shows, and then that'll lead into Matty talking about the infamous paddock parties. Not the one that we mentioned earlier, but a different set of paddock parties in a different location.
We played a gig up in Gosford at a place called Froggies. I think it was a roller rink. I don't know. It was huge. It was big. It was about 1,500 people there. I played with Frenzel. That was good. That was a really good gig. It was one of those nights where the music just flows and everything went really well. But I think one of my favourites, there was the penguin suit night. That was hardcore. I was wearing a penguin suit, and I don't think we were even playing. And the band that was playing there, I just went up because Matt and Damien were there too. I don't know why we were dressed up, going to some fancy dress. I don't know what it was. And I said to the guys in the band, in between sets, I said, "Oh, do you mind if we get up and have a bit of a crack, Yeah, no worries. And we got up and just, wiped the floor. It was amazing, We were just totally winging it. And, that was really cool. And, I don't know, another time was at, do you know Goonie? He was in Speckled Foam, bass player. Yeah, he's one of really good friends of mine. And his parents went away. I hope your parents listen to this, Goonie, if this goes to air. But his parents went away, and he's put on this party at his place, and he asked us to play there. Oh, yeah, righto. And like hundreds of people turned up. It was a massacre for the house. It was. I don't think anything was damaged, but it was way out of what he thought. Heaps of people just turned up, and we played in the lounge room, and we're just surrounded by. It was awesome. Yeah, it was one of the best memories I've had. It was amazing. Yeah, and countless more. Between 95 and 2000, I reckon I would have got between 300 and 400 gigs, all up. Like a lot of gigs. We played a lot of places, and but that at a mate's place in his lounge room was probably a bloody highlight. It was really good. Yeah.
Isn't that funny? Like people think about, opportunities to play with international bands and all that sort of thing. And sometimes the ones that stand out in your memory the most are the ones that are like in someone's lounge room, surrounded by hundreds of people that you know. And
absolutely. Homegrown. Yeah. Amazing. And then we, I do have some good memories of playing with Crackula Skigor up in the hills. Because they love their. I won't say it. But anyway, we love playing with those guys. Good value. Yeah. Oh, that was another memory that, it's funny when you look back. I got us a gig at a Macca's for some reason. So I knew, someone that loved our band, and he worked at Macca's, right? And he's like, I'll talk to my manager and we'll get your gig for McHappy Day. I'm like, okay. And he said, it'll be $100. Yeah, all right, we'll do it. And we played there, and we set up, and we put masks on. I don't know why we did that. And we got shut down by the manager because we were making the children cry. So, but we got our $100.
Yeah.
Whatever. The the little girls were like, they couldn't handle the full stockings over their head and stuff like that. I think it was Damien, because Damien he looked the worst. He had the stocking, looked like a robber, and funny to look back on now.
Yeah. I've got to mention the parties too. The paddock party. Yeah. We call it the overall bloodbath. But the first one was us, You Blabbed About Mars, and Crooked Cop. Crooked Cop played
Good
first. Huh?
Good lineup.
So anyway, the party was awesome. There was heaps of people there. They were burning a piano in the middle of the paddock, and it was just people fucking everywhere. The fire brigade turned up and all that stuff. So anyway, fight time. So Crooked Cop played, they were awesome. You Blabbed About Mars played, was awesome. Now, You Blabbed About Mars had a few members of Killswitch from back in the day, and they were a really big band when I was growing up, and I thought the world of them. So anyway, we're playing, and I'm getting into it, and I look up, and there was this fold back in front of me, and this young bloke had another bloke's head, and he was just absolutely slamming it into the fold back speaker. And I was going like, wow, what's going on here? And it was all on. Hey, it was like there was half the party was punching on, and then it kind of settled down, and I turned my guitar off because it was like no more. Someone said no more music. It was actually the owner of the place. It was a really old bloke, I know. Yeah. So I took my guitar off, and this young bloke said, "Can I play your guitar?" And I just put it over him, and the old bloke grabbed the guitar and said, "Mate, I told you, no more bloody playing." And this bloody other kid just went, "Fuck you," bam, and just whacked him. So it was on again. But the thing is that the second time we went and played there as well. I can't remember that lineup. We played inside the shed the second time we played there. What I remembered about it is that we played Radio by Rancid for the first time. I love that song. If anyone wants to know what that is, that's me playing with my orange juice bottle cap.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and that night, it also ended up in a fight. And I remember, because I was standing over the side, and this little white fella looks up to me and goes, "Mate, you're a big fella, come with me, and you can help me out." And I was like, I walked around the corner, and there's one kid had another kid in a headlock with a white Jim Beam bottle, trying to crack it on his head. Like, it was going ping, 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 ping. And I was going, oh man, and they're into it. Little white guy goes running into it. He's like, "Come on, big fella, help me out." And I'm like, no. So, I thought, yeah, just pick the biggest guy to take into the fight with me, and that didn't work too well for him because I think he got a bit of a bashing. But yeah, that night we ended up spending most of the night out the front of the place because none of us could drive, and there was cops everywhere.
Yeah, so just hearing about that McDonald's story, that's gold. I could just imagine the manager's like, "Oh, it's a band," and he's like probably thinking like, Buddy Holly cover band, come and sing some lovely ballads, and out comes like, the modern day version of the Sex Pistols, basically.
It's just the image of someone with a stocking over their face. Like if you've ever seen someone pull a stocking over their face, it is scary for a little kid to see someone with
I'd be terrified.
Facial features distorted like that.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Alright, we've just got two more clips now of another one of Matty just reflecting on the fun that they had in the band at this time, and then Damo talking a bit about Marty's bass style.
Oh, dude, it was frustrating at times, but man, most of the time it was just a fucking lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we met a lot of cool people. A lot of people that we know now. But it was a ton of fun, and we played some pretty cool shows. Like, we played the infamous show at Froggy's when Frenzel played, and there was a bomb scare, and the whole crowd, including the bands, had to stand out in the street. We were actually meant to play there before with The Living End, but the drummer broke his leg. And we played $1 Short's first ever show at Froggy's, and there was barely anyone there. But they played first, and then we played, and there was still a 5-piece then. They were basically a 5-piece the whole time, but no, there were a 4-piece then. Scotty actually played guitar. They said, "Look, we're playing at a party at the guitar, I think it was Buddha's house, after this, come up." And we tried to get up there, and all the streets were closed by the coppers because 2,000 kids had turned up there, right? So we went down to the beach into this car park just to drink, and Marty wanted to go for a swim. Marty's just a different person in this world, man. I tell you, Spilt Milk. He's just completely different to any other person I've ever met in my life. And I've known Marty for many years, and I still consider him one of my best mates ever. But he was always left field. It was kind of like if we're doing something, he would want to do something different. Like, let's go for a swim. It's like, mate, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. So he'd be off into the Williams, but he'd also pick you up in the middle of the night and take you up to like Magnetic Mountain and shit like that. So he's very adventurous. So it's really cool. So anyway, we were all sitting in the park drinking and that, and just all these kids come out of nowhere, and they're all punching on and shit. It was a mad night, man, because they'd been kicked out of the party and slowly walked down to where we were.
Yeah, he was always kind of slapping and popping and playing bass chords and stuff like that as well, which was kind of good because it was filling it when we were a three-piece. It filled in the gaps. If he was like, he'd do chords and stuff like that. It kind of worked well with what Matty was doing on guitar and stuff like that. Obviously, when we were a four-piece with Checky or earlier on, there was 2 guitars and that's a different thing. But I think he that flavour kind of filled in the gaps pretty well.
So in those clips, you would have heard mention of Goonie, aka Chris Duckworth, the bass player from Speckled Foam. And Goonie, I was going to try and interview him for this show, but I just couldn't get it to line up. But I do want to thank Goonie because he is bringing to light a lot of like what I call a gold mine of material, because he has sat on a lot of material, and like now that people are interested, he's been like sort of passing a lot of it along, and it's Goonie that we have to thank for basically 5 or 6 Spilt Milk songs being rediscovered, recordings that were lost even by the band themselves, and like it's just amazing to think that after 30 years or so, this music has just come back again. We've got it again. A lot of people can hear it for the first time, myself included. So here's Damo talking about these lost demos. So there's actually, just for a bit of context, there are 2 sets of demos. So there's one set of demos from around about 1997 or 98, which didn't get released anywhere. And it's about 3 or 4 songs. And then there's another demo later on, which was a promo demo, which got sent out to pubs and things like that, which was the last thing they recorded, which Damien is also on. And that demo was also lost except for the song Sex Me Hard, which got put onto a compilation. Something else we haven't talked about in this time period that we've been looking at from like 1996 to 1998-ish is Damo's first recording with the band is a cover of the song Hot Stuff by... Who sings that song Hot Stuff? They also do have it in the backseat of my Cadillac. Hot Chocolate? Is that them? It's like a 70s disco band or whatever.
I think so.
Funk band. Funk band's probably a better way of describing it. Damo's first recording with the band is that song for the Buster Move 96 compilation, which we mentioned in the last podcast for Hass Brigade because their very first recording was also on that compilation with their version of Boom Boom Boom. And so the first recording was that song. We're not going to play that song. You can hear it on the Bandcamp when we put it up. But so there's 2 sets of demos that were lost, and we've now got them. So this is Damo talking about them, and then we'll hear a song straight after it, one of the songs from the lost recordings, which were never released anywhere.
What 40 You Look At Me was like our unofficial 3rd demo tape. So I found a copy of that at home the other day, and it's got 3 songs on it. It's got Square Peg, Round Hole, Sex Me Hard, which was on the Damien Gerard's compilation, and a song called Lucky Dip. So I think we used that as like our sort of a promo demo to get shows, but we didn't sort of press copies or release it or anything like that, and it got lost for a long time. So there's those 3 songs on that, and as I said, Sex Me Hard's on the Damien Gerard's compilation. So we didn't have access to those recordings for years, and then our good friend Chris Duckworth, aka Goonie, came across some recordings in the last week, was able to digitize them, and it had those 3 songs, and also we did a recording at Troy Horse Studios, which was there's 3 other songs that are unreleased. And we re-recorded The Simpsons. And what we did at that recording, we must have wanted to get on the radio at the time, was we we cleaned up the songs and changed the lyrics. So there's actually a re-recording of The Simpsons, where the word "fuck" is changed to "stuff."
Right.
It's kind of I don't know. It's a good version of the song because it was closer to the live version and faster and how we played it live and stuff. But it's kind of a little bit lame. But I think we felt like we had a couple of really good songs and we wanted to get them on the radio, and we were like, oh, these songs are full of swearing, so we just went in and we changed the words. It's came across those recordings again recently, and they sound pretty good. It was good to hear them again. But yeah, I don't know, in hindsight, changing the words was a little bit lame, but we must have wanted to try and get the songs on the radio at the time. And the funny thing was that the song that ended up getting Sex Me Hard was on the Damien Gerard's compilation that made its way to Triple J, and I think Michael Tunn had a request show, and that was the song that radio had. So we'd call up and we tried to get that played and stuff like that, and we got like a big fat no, because that was obviously that song was a little more risque than the songs that we tried to tidy up and stuff like that. So I feel like we did a bunch of songs at Damien Gerard's. Obviously Sex Me Hard made it on the compilation. Lucky Dip, I'm pretty sure that was recorded there, and I feel like we did a few more, but they never got finished. I think we couldn't afford to finish them or something like that. So I feel like there's more songs out there, but they didn't get finished and didn't get committed to tape. But there are about 5 unreleased Spilt Milk songs which have recently come back to us, which sound pretty cool, and we'd like people to hear them. So.
millionaire. She won't love you unless you're a millionaire. Millionaire. She won't love you unless you're a millionaire. She won't love you unless you're a millionaire. And you know that you are broke.
Our sound kind of evolved, I guess. Like it started out as a pop band, seeing bands like Frenzal and punk bands and speeding it up and stuff like that. And then it would Suck to Be Dark kind of had more of a metal influence. It mixed in with punk rock. So each recording, even though these ones were sort of never released, had a different kind of flavour.
Yeah.
So I guess the Troy Horse recordings were, we had a song on there called Millionaire, which was kind of mid-paced, a really good song, but kind of a poppier kind of song. So there's a different kind of flavour for each thing we recorded. The stuff on What For Do You Look At Me, sort of the last kind of stuff, which was probably recorded like 98, 99, you could tell that we were really sort of listening to Frenzal and Propaganda.
So we can hear them talking about the way the band sort of changed over time with the three eras of the band. They talk about the early punk era, then the metal sort of influence coming back in, and then the final sort of run. And part of that final run is they recruited Checky on a second guitar, so they went back to having two guitars, which is what they had right in the very early days when they first formed. And so that just to sort of fill the sound out a bit more. So we'll hear now from Matty talking about Checky joining the band.
Checky was playing in another band called Scratch Habit, I think, at that time. It wasn't Detox Unit yet. We played at a show upstairs, the PCYC, and it was the first time I'd ever seen a young band come down and help us with our gear upstage, take it upstairs and like. So yeah, anyway, so we saw Checky playing, and we were kind of like, Checky's just an amazing live performer, man. The guy's
Had a lot of energy.
A lot of energy, but he's a talented prick. You know, really. Like, come on, we've seen what ended up happening with him. And we watched it all happen, and it was awesome, you know. So we got him into the band. He joined the band, and it was only short lived, but it was good fun. We played a band comp up at Tattersalls. We nearly won that. We got beaten by a rock band. Don't know where you guys went.
I wonder if that was Exile.
They used to be in a few band comps, didn't they?
They were a real full-on rock band, like real rock band, and they were pretty good, but they're probably about 10, 15 years too late. So, yeah. Oh, there's a lot of those bands that we played with. You know, you go like, man, you guys were really good about 20 years ago.
Yeah, so now here we have Checky talking about how he joined the band.
So I would have been 17 or 18, I think, and I was with Detox Unit, and we ended up doing a show. I think it was at Blacktown Youth Centre, and we finished playing, and I remember Matt coming up saying that we did a Descendants cover. I think we did Coffee Mug or something. Yeah, it was Coffee Mug, yeah. And we were just chatting, and then Spilt Milk played, and I was like, wow, they were, you know, I remember Marty on the bass. He had a music man that was covered in denim. And I was like, wow, okay, that's pretty cool. And I just remember the energy in Damo as well, and Matt. They were just pure energy. So pretty much led to me chatting and hanging out with Matt. And I think at the time they wanted to fatten their sound up and wanted another guitarist. So they asked me to join the band. And I went and started jamming with them. And, yeah, it was good. They were good older lads. I was still fresh 17, 18-year-old, just kicking around local gigs, garage band, jamming in garages and what have you. So, yeah.
Yeah, so then this era of the band, they're sort of leading into their second Melbourne tour. So we didn't really talk about their first Melbourne tour, but before they went on tour to Melbourne with the band Groin, which Matty also played in alongside Martin from The Last Hemorrhoids. And so they went on tour with Groin when they were the three-piece, and then once Checky joined the band, that they went on another tour to Melbourne, this time with Drop Zone and Turtle Slime. And Drop Zone at this time was when Adam O'Sullivan was playing in Drop Zone, who they refer to as Scallop, which we didn't cover in the last Noise Levels because I didn't know about that nickname until
Yeah,
afterwards.
I hadn't heard that before.
Yeah, because that's all he ate was scallops. Anyway, this is now going to be Matty talking about some of their Melbourne adventures, and then Checky talking about some of the memorable shows. And then, we'll hear about Matty at the end of that again, just talking about the do-it-yourself aspect of playing in the band at this time.
And because we were absolutely hammered Saturday, I lost my voice from laughing too much at Checky. Because if you know Checky very well, Checky's one of the most funniest men you'll ever drink with in your life, right? So we had a roaring night, and I couldn't sing, and we got up, and we were kind of like the new punks at these shows and we all had shorts on, whereas those days they were all dressed up as punks with ripped jeans and patches and shit like that. And a bunch of the Melbourne crew started yelling at us, "Real punks don't wear shorts." Real musicians don't wear shorts, and I think it might have been Checky, but someone called back and said, "Well, what about fucking AC/DC then?" so that was our second tour. That was Melbourne, and it was a great time. We had so much fun.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like the music was kind of obviously it's awesome, but man, just being in this band was just a damn lot of fun. We were so young and naive, and like the time I woke up in Melbourne, that was funny. That wasn't a tour either. I just woke up in Melbourne.
Right.
Yeah.
You went to sleep somewhere else?
Drugs are bad, kids.
I remember we played this show, and they called it the something Bloodbath. It was out near Windsor, Richmond way, Oakville, the Oakville Bloodbath, and it was a party they had every year, and we played, and Matt was warning me. He goes, "Watch this, everyone out here is pretty crazy," and there was fights everywhere. It was it's pretty nuts. I was like, it was pretty funny actually. I was laughing about it. I remember travelling up and playing with $1 Short for the first time up in the Central Coast at Gosford. I went up with my cousin Dan, and that was unreal. And playing a show up at the roller skating ring actually with Downtime up there as well. That was when Eric Groth was playing for him.
Oh yeah, yep.
And also too, that tour we did, we played at the Art House Hotel down in Melbourne, and we played with Drop Zone and Turtle Slime, which is great. I already knew Ads, obviously, from the years of playing and hanging out with the House Brigade guys, which was good. So there was plenty of fun happening there, plenty of debauchery. So, and then it was great. I remember, because we played at the Tote, and it was with H Block 101, and they were fantastic. They were a great band, and it was good. It was an eye opener for me. That was my first sort of touring experience outside, the local area. So we were going to Newcastle, traveling different places, going down to Melbourne, and it was a good eye opener for me. Anyway, it gave me the taste of it. Anyway, so I knew that's the what I wanted to do for the next few years. Anyway, so it was awesome, man.
Every time you go to a show, there'll be at least another 4 or 5 band members from other bands, just there to check you out or to try and hassle you for a show or whatever. And that's what made the scene strong, right? Because we had to go out. It didn't come to us through a laptop or or computer. You had to go out and get it. We used to draw our own flyers. We had to go to the local video store or DVD store and photocopy them, so we could try and get down to the venue first and put it on the wall, or try and put them on the around the poles. Like we you remember like someone brought up the St Mary's Memorial Hall in the Hassle Brigade one, and we played a thing there years before. It was a festival put on by the guys from Split Scene, and we played that. And part of the agreement is that we had to go out and put poles, put them up, the posters up on the poles down Queen Street.
Yeah, and I think back then we were sort of blessed with the scene that we had. Like there was shows every weekend. The Western Sydney and Penrith scene, like there was always somewhere to play. There's a good close knit of bands. Like around that time, like the late 90s, was just so many good bands, and such a good scene. So it was pretty cool that we were able to be sort of around and a part of that.
Yeah, and then you got to pay like $12 for a beer. It's just, and then you get paid $50.
Yeah.
So, the meme, everyone's seen the meme. Putting $2,000 worth of gear into a $500 car to drive to make $50.
Yeah.
Nothing's really changed there.
No.
We didn't care if we got paid or not.
No.
We just wanted to play. We just wanted to feel like rock stars for half an hour.
Alright, so we're getting to the point now where we're talking about the end of Spilt Milk, and Matt, it was good to hear Matty then talking about the DIY aspect of it and what it was like to be in a band back then, and Damo also reflecting on just how many great bands there were back then, and like it was like a flood of bands at this point in time where there was just like an explosion of music, that DIY sort of aspect of things. That's a bigger tale to tell, I think. If we won't delve too much into the reason why things were happening at that time, but there's a whole bunch of flashpoints which make that such a perfect storm. I think things like Recovery would have a part to play in it, and Drum Media, and a whole range of things, and the shift from like tape playing to CDs as
that
well.
might be just a whole new podcast.
That's right. So that's a different thing. It's a different thing to talking about Spilt Milk. But it's difficult to always determine a neat ending for something which essentially melts away nearly 30 years ago. So like when a band ends, it's different for every band. Sometimes it's just short, sharp, this is it, the band's done. Other times bands just stop playing and then they eventually go, I guess we broke up. Other times band members leave and then the band finds it difficult to find someone else who can fill that spot. And in the case of Spilt Milk, I think it was just a case of like the band had just done its lifespan. That's my sort of perspective of just listening to the guys talk about the band. Like they went for 5 years, like 1994 to 1999, and I guess I'm just ready to move on. And like the average lifespan of a local band seems to be about 5 years. When I look at all these bands, the bands that last for 8 to 10 years or even longer, they're the outliers. Like most solid local bands do tend to only last about 5 years.
I think from my own experience, I think you need to like get out of your own little bubble sometimes and try different experiences, or play with different people. Well, that's for me personally. I
think it's to do with age too. Like you cycle through to a certain point in your life.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely.
Yeah, like they weren't teenagers anymore. They started this band as teenagers. Yeah. And aside from Checky, who joined when he was like 18 or 17, like the rest of them had gotten to the point where they were about 20, 21, I think. So they weren't teenagers anymore. Matty was already a dad at this point. So yeah, like they'll move into different areas of their lives. So we're going to hear now from Checky talking about how he left the band, and we're just going to go into some clips of Marty reflecting about the band, and Matty talking about how the band ended, and then Damo and Matty talking about that transition to Unpaid Debt, which is the band that Damo and Matty went on to form next after Spilt Milk. And yeah, we might run through those 4 clips and just let them all sort of go into each other, because it does sort of all cross over into the same territory, which is essentially the end of Spilt Milk. One other thing that I wanted to sort of mention here as well is just a big thank you to all the people who helped me sort of assemble material for this. It was great to be able to talk to 5 members of the band. It would have been good to talk to everybody, but these things aren't always possible, and squeezing that into an hour and a half is difficult. But thank you again also to probably like 2 people in particular, Goonie for the Lost songs, like amazing. Like we got to hear these songs again. And also to Todd Ryan, who uncovered a lot of material, like photos that he'd taken back in those times. And just in general, like the first time I was able to hear that second demo, It Would Suck to Be a Duck, was because Todd Ryan had a copy of it. So thank you to those people and anyone else who's been able to send some pictures to us, like Sky and people like that. It's just great to assemble all this material. But anyway, here's Checky talking about how he sort of came to a realization that he wasn't going to stay in the band anymore. And when Checky leaves, that isn't the end of the band. They did go back to being a free piece, but I don't think it really went for that long as a free piece after he left the band.
I left the band, and I was going to get Detox Year back together. And I would have been 19 at the time. And at that time, I was really good friends with Tim Flaherty and Scotty Woods from Dollar Short. I'd made a good connection with them when I'd seen them play, and I was hanging out with them and just go up and hang out with them and go out for beers and stuff with them all the time. And yeah, I remember we're getting the band back together, and then I got a phone call from Tim Flaherty, and I'd already done, I think, 3 rehearsals with Dollar Short. And I was in where was I? I was at Offshore Festival with a heap of guys and girls, and yeah, I got the phone call and I had to get back before, like 2 days after New Year's or something. So, but yeah, no, it was good because it was funny in that time. So when I did join Dollar Short, I still had a massive connection with obviously Matt and Damo. I still spoke to them with heaps and was lucky enough to play with them a lot during the early days of Unpaid Debt, which was awesome to see them power through because they were unbelievable, that band. But it was a good, it was good that after Spilt Milk did end sort of thing, they transitioned into that, and it was, phenomenal. But no, I like I said before, man, that gave me the taste of it. Being with those older guys, they had better gear, more professional. The songs were well written, and it was just one of those things where I was, you sort of go through your transition, your progression through it, and just sort of stepping up to another level to play with those guys. So, but yeah, I had great memories of that band. I had a really good time with them all. So it was fun.
I don't know, it's just got a bit old, moving on a bit. I was getting itchy feet too, wanted to head up north and go to uni. And it was just one of those things. And I don't know. I do miss it. I really do miss it. But it's one of those things, So I just wish we would have taken more care with our recordings and, put a bit more effort into it, but it is what it is. And whatever, if people have seen us play, then it's a memory they'll have, and a memory we'll have planned for them, that kind of thing. It was such a good time in my life, and I often think about it and think, maybe I should get back into it, but I've still got the bass, still got my guitars, bass, everything, all that.
Checky decided to move on. He wasn't happy, and that's fair enough. He was young, So I think with him as well, I think he wanted to go back and play with his mates. But the band pretty much died fairly quickly after that. Like, that was 98. I think we called it a day in 99.
99, yeah.
We did have a few people that were interested in helping us, but they at the end of the time too, they wanted to try and get money out of a drunken married alcoholic. And that doesn't happen. And also I had kids too. So and I had a son and that, and me, Damo, my wife, now wife Tam, and my son Tony, we all lived in a little apartment above Butcher and Riverston on the main street there. And I just, like we're playing all cool shows with, all these young bands and shit, and Josh used to just go off when we played, like, just all over the place, just full of energy, and I thought, man, I wonder if this guy can sing.
I mean, there wasn't much time between the two bands, I didn't think.
Oh no, we couldn't have gone a week without playing.
Yeah.
But it either spilt over or it was very close. I don't know. It might be just like an affair starting, a few kisses at first, and then you leave the missus for her, I don't know.
But we recorded that first Unpaid Debt EP in '99, so
Yeah.
it's the same year at least. So
It cost us a whole whopping $200, mate.
Yeah.
10 hours.
yeah, and you can tell by listening to it.
Hey,
And you think Unpaid Debt's basically like...
I'm going to go down on record. You're recording this, right?
Yeah.
The bass playing is fucking excellent.
So the Unpaid Debt first CD, could you see it as a continuation of some of the things Spilt Milk were
No,
doing?
it's complete. Oh, look, there was a little bit of ska starting to jump into Spilt Milk there at the time. We did have a few songs that I'm not going to name. That did start to thing, and we did carry on a few of the songs. I'm So Happy and Comfortably Dumb and Unpaid Debt. Actually, see, that's why I'm starting to... maybe when we were doing the Sucker Punch stuff, we were still in Spilt Milk.
Yeah.
But I don't think we would have named the band Unpaid Debt after a Spilt Milk song if Spilt Milk was still going.
Okay, now this is Matty, just on the final word of the band.
You don't realise how many kids are listening. You know, like, we may have been just a bunch of hacks, like, drunken New Zealand Maori, for Christ's sakes. You know, there's no other Maoris in the punk scene back in those days.
No.
You know, and to hear that, you know, I introduced someone to punk music through a song that I wrote when I was up late one night, and it really means a lot, because kids... I have had a lot of kids say to me, man, you're the reason why I did this. And I was like, I was bad at it, so how did that happen?
Alright, so we're just going to play one more song now. The song from the final demo, which was Why For Do You Look At Me, which was the promo demo that they sent out with 3 songs on it, the Lost demo. This song wasn't Lost though, because this is the one song that went on to the Damien Gerard compilation as well, so it's probably one of the better quality recordings of the band, because it was actually on a CD. Only 2 of their songs made it to CD as far as I know, and the other one being that cover of Hot Stuff. So it's a great song. It's just probably my favourite Spilt Milk song. And we just heard then Matty talking about how much it means to him that they inspired people to play punk music. And that was in response to what I said at the beginning. I told them that story when they were here about how I listened to that song, The Simpsons, and how it did inspire me to change gears and become more interested in music, in punk music in particular. So this song is called Sex Me Hard. It's a great track. You can hear Marty's funk influences in the bridge section, if you listen out for that, and that ska influence they talked about as they turned into Unpaid Debt afterwards. And yeah, just thanks for listening, and we'll play the song and enjoy.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, thanks a lot, fellas. It's been a real blast. And I'd like to say thanks to Luke for his hard work and all his, historical stuff that he does. Whatever you call that. As you can see, I'm not exactly the greatest scholar in the world. But anyway, thanks a lot to Desh for sitting in and for some of your opinions.
And thank your producer this time, Colden.
Hey, thanks Ava, our producer.
Yeah.
Anyway, over and out, guys. I'll see you in the next podcast.